Ahead and start talking again.
Okay. I'm a terrible human being that likes breakfast burritos.
Yeah, this is true facts. All right, I think the audio is going to be working. I'm going to message everybody. Let us know if the audio is weird. I'll check back in a moment. Usually it should be fine. And then let me make sure I can share my screen. Screen. All right. There we go. Okay, cool. Oh, the way that I have my layout, it looks like one of your paintings because I have your art station up. Is me is a portrait of because I have a little square icon on the bottom left corner where you can see me, and then
Oh,
because I
oh,
have how ArtStation has all those squares, so it looks like
yeah.
one of your illustrations is a live picture of myself. You guys didn't know she did a live GIF portrait. Anyway, um, welcome. How you feeling?
a little jittery actually. I had some coffee concentrate.
Oh my gosh, that's intense. All right. Well, I want to introduce you. This is Micah, and she's actually a good buddy of mine. We've known each other for quite a while. We've chatted a lot online, and I figured it'll be cool to have her on here because she's one of those artists that I think not too many people know about, and I would like for her to kind of like get a little bit more of a spotlight. You definitely have your own following on different platforms, but I think it'll be cool to introduce you to my audience. So, everybody say what's up.
Hi, people. Oh, I see you on YouTube. Now nobody can say I don't have guys in my portfolio anymore.
Yeah, do you see it now? Do you see how I'm on the bottom?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if you want to kind of do a introduction or brief bio about yourself, it doesn't have to be like a 7 hour autobiography.
Well, it all started when I was born in 1995, but
Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, I'm gonna drink some agua.
oh, geez, that'll take too damn long. I'm a person that likes to draw stuff. Yeah, so there you go. I'm actually just a self-taught. I came from Kansas and moved to New York, and just 4 months ago, I relocated to LA to pursue my work in hopes that I can take it to the next level. So, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is her work. I linked it into the chat. I'll link it again in the chat for you guys to rummage. And yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be able to look at the questions immediately, and the audio looks like it's good. But what I will do is I'm going to say questions, and then everybody start to do the normal question stuff, where you write down a question, semicolon or colon, and then your question during the time that I tell you to, because Mike's not here with us right now. He's doing some stuff, personal errands, and he won't be here at all. And so I'm gonna have to moderate, which is fine. It's not a big deal.
I have been pulled up too, if that helps.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a another speaker for next week or another guest, Adon. And I'll share his work in just a second, towards the end. But he's pretty well known for like super hyper realistic like mech and machinery type concept design. And we're gonna do a little bit of an earlier stream that time too. But we're still kind of sorting it out. But it looks like it's a go. He already told me it's good to go. So I just gotta like set it up. And so I'm gonna try to get like a guest speaker every time I have one of these. And obviously, if there isn't somebody chilling, then I'm just gonna talk by myself. This isn't necessarily like a podcast. It's just a stream in which I just hang out and chat. I guess that is a podcast at some level, but it's not your conventional one. I guess where you would have usually a guest. I'm always wait. What? I'm not following you? I thought I was already following you. Psh, I'm a bad friend. There you go. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and do some painting just as normal, like I would normally do, and we're gonna just kind of talk. And then during that questions section, I'm going to, I'm going to switch from painter to moderator, and but during that time, you could be drawing too, and then I'll switch to you when we get a chance. I'm not sure if you uh, are sharing your screen on the Discord.
I'm about to. Just a sec.
Okay, yeah, take your time since I'm already going to go ahead and get started with stuff.
Throwing up my file. That's all.
Okay, but like I said, I won't be checking the chat out that often. I mean, you guys can obviously talk amongst each other, but just know that I won't be looking until just a little bit later. Anyway, so how's your stay so far in LA?
I like it. It's a lot less aggressive here than
Yeah.
where I was living in Brooklyn, and I was living on a very busy street right by the transit system. So you saw all kind of characters there, and the loudest characters around me now are just the cats having sex outside my window and the dogs. So
those
that's better.
I know those cats and dogs. They're good peoples. The good peeps. Yeah,
Yeah,
the East Coast and West Coast for sure. There's a clear difference. Um, I find that the West Coast is clearly a lot more laid back. There's a lot
yeah,
more of
totally.
that going on, um, and
Yeah.
especially in Southern California, we're really laid back.
Hmm.
And then New York is just so intense. Like I was there for a workshop, which was really fun, and I really
Mm.
enjoyed it. But it just showed me that I just am not built for that environment. It
Mm.
was just so intense all the time, and it was just so crowded. Like even like the way that your guys' stores are just different. You know what I mean? Like you guys' Best Buy or Target are like part of like that city atmosphere. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Where
yeah,
where in California, Target it's like its own building and it has like a massive parking lot and there's like you're just
yeah,
there's no hurry or like rush to kind of go in and out because like for instance we had to like go get some chairs from Home Depot and it was like a whole thing just like the park. James was like, all right,
yeah,
I'm gonna circle around and you guys just come out and just let me know when you guys are where here in California you just park and we all go in together and it's no big deal.
yeah. New York, when it comes to driving in New York is a totally different story. Although I will say though, the driving here scares the living daylights out of me. So I don't trust you people on the road here. Y'all
I
y'all
agree.
on some stuff.
No, I
But
agree.
in New York, they're just like really like it's like the traffic just being slow is the biggest issue you have there.
Yeah, you
Here
have
it's
no
the driving.
choice.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
you have no choice in New York, right, to go slow, and that's kind of what's really uh, great about that. Where in California, especially LA area, like there's such fast speed limits. It's like people just go incredibly fast. My friends make fun of me because they say like I drive like a grandpa because I drive super slow. But I'm just
Mm.
kind of like, no, man. Like I'm driving the speed limit.
Like being alive
Yeah,
things.
like this is dangerous speeds. Whenever my family comes and visits, that's exactly like the first thing that they'll notice. It's like, oh my god, you're going so fast, you know. And I'm like, I'm actually
Mm.
going slow. Like I'm going like
Yeah.
70 or 65, and they're like, oh my god, you're going slow. I was like, no, everyone else is going like 80, 85. I'm actually
They
going very slow. People get mad how slow I drive comparatively.
demons just
Yeah. So okay. So for how long have you actually been in California? I know you've been here for a few months at least, because you came to a
yeah,
couple events.
probably. Well, according to Ray, like 4 months.
What according to him?
Yeah, he says four, but I guess I have no sense of time, or I have no sense of time or like what day it is. I just lose track of the days; they just fly by.
Oh, right on. And then so currently you just do whatever work that comes available to you, right? I know we
Yeah.
talked online about some potential prospects, which is really exciting. Hopefully it works
Hmm.
out. And obviously, the closer you are to, because we were talking online, the closer you are to these places, the easier it is, or the more opportunities will arise. And we're
Yeah, that's a huge part of why I relocated because I was getting reached out to by a lot of game companies when I was in New York. They're like, "Oh, we
mm-hmm,
really like your work. Would you like to work for us?" And I'm like,
mm-hmm.
"Do you guys come with a relocation package though?" And they're like, "Crickets."
Laters, and you're just like, hey,
Yeah,
what? No,
yeah.
I was just
Guess you didn't
asking.
like it that much. Jeez.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal, you know. And talk, if you don't mind, like, I would like to hear your experience so far, as trying to like make it into this industry. Because right now I think you're a really good artist, and we've talked before, and I think you are capable of working, and I think you relocating is one of the best steps forward for sure. It's a really dangerous and scary thing to do, I can imagine, but
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
it is it is wise, especially since you're surrounding yourself with the right types
Hmm.
of people,
Hmm.
but I want to know, like, kind of hear your personal experience, because I think a lot of times, um, people hear me and, like, some other people that are just like clearly at a level in their career that just seems so far away from many of my viewers, but I think
Hmm.
you're a little bit in between, right? And I think
Hmm.
that's really going to be helpful to hear your perspective and what your goals are.
Well, my story is it's like one of those high risk, maybe high reward situations. I don't think that what I did is something that everyone could do comfortably because it came with a lot of sacrifices, like a
Right on.
lot. Um, like coming here to me wasn't so scary after going to New York
Got it.
because I straight went from living with my family just leaving everything I knew behind and going to that city and just surviving there.
Mm.
And I didn't know anything about like life or um, adulthood, really. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, I didn't know anything at all. Um, and I just kind of winged it a little bit. It was very tough, and living there kicked my butt a lot. But I learned a lot, so I would do it again if I, had to.
Totally. And what kind of sacrifices do you think you had to make that were like, that you feel like most people or some people just can't, potentially, or just like, just in your general sense, like, what sacrifices do you mean?
Like familiarity in my circumstances, like my family security. I didn't live with my family. I had nobody there, like I was on
Yeah.
my own basically. Um, and I had to learn a huge city. I come from a small town in Kansas. So I
Yeah.
had no exposure to any kind of environment like that ever in my entire life. Um, and I was just alone. So it exposed me to a lot of things that are potentially dangerous.
Mm.
Um, and lifestyles that I had never seen before, like all kinds of crazy things, and learning like how people are, the harsh realities of life, but in the most difficult ways possible. And I had like very little money, so I had to grind. I had to
Uh-huh.
put in a lot of work to stay afloat. Um, I was lucky because I had work at that time already that was at least decent enough to get people's attention and they wanted to commission me.
Cool.
So, I started doing as many of those things as I possibly physically could, but
Mm.
that also came at a cost. That was my health
Oh yeah.
because I totally overdid it a lot of the times. There was times where I had to like go see a doctor, you
Oh
know,
shoot.
yeah,
Well,
it was definitely rough. I'm not gonna sugarcoat things here. And I
no,
don't
I
think
don't think you
everyone
should.
would have to experience it that way, but that was just my experience.
You know, everything you're saying is actually very common in the industry,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of times, in fact, I was talking to somebody recently, and I think a lot of times people feel that it's just like not happening, or things aren't moving as well as they should. And usually the culprit is a couple things. And it's one is like the quality of someone's work, or if they're like putting themselves out there enough, right?
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
you had always had good work, in my opinion. but it was more about putting yourself out there. And I think you're doing that now, and I'm pretty hopeful that it's going to work out. Because people like myself, Rake. We're going to be going to an event tonight. You're just going to meet more amazing people, right?
Hmm.
Like I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you've met Marco Neller. Have you ever met
Yep.
Marco? Okay,
Yeah, I know.
cool.
We're cool. We're friends.
Yeah. Do you know Philip too, or have you met
I'm not.
Philip?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. A
Okay.
lot of a lot of me moving to New York also was networking. Like
Oh, you
I
mean
met up
moving
with other.
to L.A.?
No, no,
No,
New
to
York.
New York.
Like
Oh, okay.
before I ever even
Sorry.
came here, um, I was using Facebook as a tool. So
Uh,
funny story. Um, the reason I even got to go to New York was because I networked. I worked really hard, and I got here. I got there rather with
uh-huh.
Facebook. Um, and then I used Facebook to reach out to any other artists I might have known on New York.
Mm,
And then that led to me being able to go to like New York Comic Con, where I met even more artists and I networked and expanded my reach. And I started working with um,
amazing.
people there, and I worked with several comic book companies. I like did work for DC. I did work for Black Mask, Image Comics, and that was all because I put myself out there. I totally did that, you know. Um, I did a little traveling. I did some shows. I was busting my ass. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to
How
say that.
dare you?
Oh
No,
no, demonetized.
no. I told her before the stream like if you can refrain from cursing just because it reaches a larger audience. Uh, but
Oopsie.
but I also said to you, it's fine. I don't really. I'm not that big of a. Oh my god, I'm
I'm sorry.
demonetized. I'm not really doing these streams to make that money. It's mostly to get that knowledge out there, and then on the business side, it's more like advertisement than it is to make tons of money. Okay,
Hmm.
so I would say don't worry about it. Like if you need to
New
say
York gave me a very foul mouth. I'm so sorry.
yeah, I'm just saying if you could refrain, you should. But if you can't because of just habits, then I'm not mad at you either. I don't really don't care.
I'll do
Um,
my best.
yeah, but moving forward, don't apologize. If you just happen to say it, you just say it. It's no big deal.
Oh, there's no Uber in Kansas. Ugh, that's horrible. Cause like I had to use Uber so much,
Oh
and that was
yeah,
ugh.
that's intense, man. Yeah, people don't realize like the things you experience in like a bigger city and smaller cities are just obviously different, but in ways that you would just never realize. Like no Ubers, like that's such a thing that I just can't imagine not having these days. You know what I mean? Like Uber is
Yeah, it's
so
quintessential.
useful. It's so helpful in so many different ways. But anyway, yeah, that's interesting, man. Like you know, I just feel like it's so obvious that when you put yourself out there, even in dramatic ways like you said, but even in smaller ways, it helps. Like the small way would just be the Facebook, right? Like that's not that hard
Hmm.
to necessarily just like reach out to somebody on a
Yeah,
digital form. That's
yeah.
how I met one of my closest friends, Danny Levusi. I
Hmm.
was working at Sony Santa Monica, and I was like, "Oh shoot, Danny Levusi lives in Santa Monica," and so I was like, "Hey man, we should get lunch." I'm like already out here, and I don't think he really even knew my work or anything. He was just like a cool guy, and he was just like, "Okay, cool, man." And he's like, "I need to get
Hmm.
out," and I was like, "Oh, all right." And then so we met up, and then ever since then we've been really close friends. And it
Yeah.
was all just from Facebook messaging. I mean, that's how you and I became buds. We became buds online first, right?
Hmm.
Because I obviously didn't meet you in person, up until recently, which
Hmm.
is even crazier to think because we've been talking for so many years even before, right? On personal levels too, not like just like casual. Hey, what's up? you know, like
Hmm.
we would talk about deep stuff from time to time, and so then it was just only natural when I actually saw you that it was like, oh yeah, this person's tight. It's
Yeah,
just
some of
it.
my best friends I've met on Facebook. People who have literally, like quite literally, saved my life. Like it's
That's
not
awesome.
even. It shouldn't be underestimated the reach that social media truly has. It's quite important, really.
Yeah, I think that's really smart to kind of like just highlight because I was watching something on TikTok. I'm not sure if you're familiar with TikTok. I think
Yeah, I
you are.
am.
I think you are.
Yeah.
But like for those of you who aren't, it's just like this another social media platform. It seems like it's kind of it reminds me of like early age internet, if that makes sense. Like
Mm,
when people just kind of made fun videos, they didn't really there wasn't so much drama. You know what I mean? They just made videos they thought were funny or fun. And I think
mhm,
TikTok is kind of right there right now. Mostly kids are on there too,
mhm.
but I saw recently like some guy on TikTok. He was kind of like talking about how artists that are really good have very small followings, but artists who are mediocre have these large followings because, and his point was that because these people know how to use social media, but he
Oh
was,
yeah.
but he was saying it in a way that was like it was unfair, right? And I was kind of like, no, man, like you kind of just in your rant, you pointed out why the artists that are so much better are not getting that attention. It's not because the quality of the work. That's obviously not what it is. It's that not posting often, right? Not
Yeah,
really
business people.
exploiting social media. And there's an artist that I think most of us know, like Kim Jong Ji. You guys remember that guy, right? He's one of the best artists out there, especially in traditional pen drawing, right? He he's always been great, you know. It's only just in the last few years people started realizing that this person existed. But he's been around, for a decade or longer, right? It's only that he like posted one time or his friend posted on social media, like him doing one of these like amazing murals, right? That he blew up. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's like people don't recognize that. Like even he was kind of in the shadows. And trust me, there are even more artists. There are plenty of artists that most of you guys may never hear from or hear about ever, because these people just stay in the shadows, right? They just work because of like hearsay, like people that they worked with before. They're like, oh, we got to hire this person again. You know what I mean? So that first initial push that they did for themselves is pretty much all they needed to do, right? They don't need to kind of play the social media game in terms of a career because they already have one that's lucrative, right? And so they just stay offline and you don't ever hear from them. And they just keep getting more jobs because of just behind the closed doors types of situations. Like people like Jamie Jones. Do you remember Jamie Jones?
I'm bad with names. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's kind of proving my point though. you know, because if he was like so prominent, right? Like like you know some of the bigger names, obviously, right? Like if I were to mention like Loish, like she's obviously up there. Bobby Chu, right? These people who are like playing that social media game hard, you know.
Yeah.
Those are not hard for us to recount because that's kind of the point, me included, right? And so it's like Jamie Jones is one of the best in our industry, and like I think people have already forgotten like this next generation of artists at least, but I haven't. So if I'm like on a job and we're like, hey, we need to hire like an artist of that caliber, I'll be like, oh, I know an artist that's like that, Jamie Jones. I don't have to go to ArtStation. I don't have to go to DeviantArt, right? I just know who he is. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And those people do exist, and I think people want that kind of thing where like they just don't have to do anything and then they just get jobs. But like these people have already built a name for themselves. Either in the past they were very social, because I know Jamie Jones was, right, and then they just built a legacy behind that, or they're just so good that people like me do find them, and then people like me give them those opportunities, right? And so I think it's like, yeah, to kind of what you're saying, what I'm really happy to hear is that like you are very aware like doing these types of things are incredibly useful. Oh, I gotta eat lunch, but
mhm.
I already ate lunch. I came prepared. Um, and so I'm really happy to hear that. And like I said, I think you're on the right track. You know what I mean? I think opportunity is going to happen sooner than later, especially because living in California and where you live, like I've always told people, like I took full advantage of living in Southern California. I recognized the potential, for opportunities. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Like I don't squander it. I still don't like this event that we're going to this evening. You know, like one of the things. It's funny because we were just talking about that online, and then you're like, "Hey, you know," or I think it was our mutual friend Yana. She's like, "Hey,
Yeah,
you're
it was
gonna go? Yeah, you're gonna go to this thing?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, duh." I didn't even realize it was a thing. And it was funny because even Philip, he texted me because I don't think he realized I was going. He's like, "Dude, I want you to go to this thing, man. It'll be great." And I was like, "I'm already going, man. I'll see you there." You know, and so it's kind of like this is obviously a great opportunity to hang out with old friends and chat, but also make new friends and connections. You know, and I'm excited to go, and I'm excited to see you going. You know, because
very.
even yeah, even when I invited you to the stream, you're just like, "Whoa, I have a thing going on today," and I was like, "I'm going to
Yeah,
that thing too."
yeah. Guest at the thingy for Black History Month.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're black.
Yeah, indeed.
That makes sense. you know, it's funny. Like whenever I get a few of us black folk together at these events, I'm like, "Oh, we got to get a picture," because
Yeah, I
there's
was
very
in
few
one
of
of.
us. And I want to see how it turns out tonight. You know what I mean?
Mm,
It'll be really it'll be really ironic that it's still a very small number of black folk. It's
I
just
mean, it
you, me,
probably
Marco.
will.
Yeah, you, me, Marco, and Philip are the only people I can think of that will be there. Actually, I can think of a couple other people that could be there. But anyway,
Mm,
it's just like it's just kind of like this silly thing that's like all these great artists are in our industry, but yet there's very few. I remember even Philip was talking to me about like the when they were doing Black Panther, how like it was like the majority of the artists were uh, like white dudes. No, I don't think that's true because I think Marvel's art team is not entirely white dudes. There's groups of all shapes and sizes, but it's like but there was like no black people until they brought Philip on, and then Philip's like, "Yo, we need to like get others," you know, and that's how I think he got Marco an opportunity on that project too, which is
mm.
really good. I'm really happy to hear about that. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited for tonight, man. I think it's gonna be a good time. All right, so what time is it right now? So we got like I'm gonna do spend like 5 more minutes, and then I'm gonna switch it over to your screen
Okay.
whenever you're ready. And then because she's been drawing this whole time, so I'm gonna switch it over pretty soon, and then I'm gonna start taking questions. But before we do, I just want to kind of ask you like one last thing, right?
Okay.
And the last question that I want to ask you is like in all of your experience working in this industry, you know what have been some of the greatest moments, and what have been some of the hardest moments? And I know you talked a little bit about like the struggle of moving out here or moving out to New York, but not necessarily that kind of stuff, but more like career wise.
Oh, snap. Sorry
Uh
about
oh,
that.
how dare you?
My friend didn't know. She. I'm
How
sorry.
dare you? She should have
I'm
known.
sorry.
Not just joking with you.
I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Greatest and most terrifying stuff that's happened to you in this industry thus far?
Okay. I'd say like one of the things I'm most thankful for that happened to me was just when I was early on, trying really, really hard to become. Oh, come on, girl. Stop calling me, girl. Stop it. Oh my God. Hold up. Let me just text her because like this is like she's gonna keep calling me.
Yeah, not a problem. All right. And while that's happening, I am going
All
to
right.
transition
There we
soon.
go. Sorry.
Yeah, it's
It's
not a
like
problem.
sending the call to my laptop. So like even if my phone's muted, it's gonna keep freaking doing that. It's really annoying.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Like I said, like this isn't like super formal. You know, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god. If you took a phone call and you were gone for like 20 minutes, maybe I would be offended. But
I'm like this close to just throwing my phone out the window, honestly.
all right.
um, when I was first starting out, or like really trying to grind and stuff, and I was posting really regularly. This was before Facebook just totally went to heck. Um, and I was actually getting traction because I was posting a lot and I was doing my kimono based series at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the pieces went viral, and then the other piece went viral right after, and they were to accompany each other. And because of
Sick.
those two pieces, I was able to start taking on work. And I'm really grateful for the opportunities that I was able to receive for that. You know, those pieces have done me a lot of favors. Um, Being able to go to New York Comic Con for the first time was also really cool, and like it really gave me exposure to like what's really out there, things that I had never even thought of in just such a minor way. Or, you know, like my very first con, I was like a 14-year-old selling artwork in Artist Alley, like really small beginnings that I'm just really grateful for.
That's cool.
Because they kind of really were the things that exposed me to what I could potentially be doing and some of the things I'm doing even now. Oh man, I could list off a lot of things like working with the companies I've worked with, um, and the people, and being able to travel and meet other artists and, you know, do all kinds of things that, like, people told me not to pursue this path. And like, you know, my family, they thought, you know, that this wasn't safe or this wasn't ideal, and I just went with my guts on it. And I'm really glad that I did. And my parents have been supportive since then, you know.
Oh, that's
So
great.
they understand now, you know, what I do, and I'm really grateful for that too. I'm grateful for my friends who have supported me, as well. Um,
Cool.
uh, there's like a I could go on forever, to be honest, but
And then what about some of those experiences you've had that you felt were really intense, like
oh,
struggle?
like I
And you don't have
had
to
a
get specific either. You can just generalize.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had instances where I worked with large companies, major companies, and they kind of used me. And I know that's commonplace in the industry, but for me to experience it, and I was experiencing it on my own and at my age with this scale of a company, you know, when you're 20, you're not thinking, oh, you know, such and such company is gonna take advantage of me, or, you know, I'm gonna
Mm.
have this kind of experience working like with such a large company, you know, and to see certain, you know, places like just not run well. And it's like a company so large that like you literally wear their clothes, like stuff like that. And you're just not expecting it. You know, you're just thinking, oh my God, this is like a cool opportunity to fill up my portfolio and, you know, whatever. And then you get screwed over, and you owe rent that month, and, you know, things like that. And I was on my own. I didn't, when I was younger, I didn't have as many people I could go to for advice about, you know, what I was doing. I didn't know,
That sucks.
um, I didn't have like people, not really, not that many people who could understand what I was dealing with. So I had to just go through it and figure it out. And I still have a lot to learn, you know.
Always, man. I'm still learning, dude.
Mhm.
Still trying to figure this out. Well, that's cool, man. Yeah, I like to talk about stuff like this because I think a lot of times, uh, people just don't realize that everybody is struggling, even people that are doing okay, at some
Mhm.
level. And it's always nice to hear, the ups because it's inspiring, but it's also nice to hear kind of the downs to
Mhm.
kind of have that relatability. All right. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start taking questions. So, feel free to start asking you guys. While that's happening, I'm going to kind of just stop here. I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this onto my desktop for now. Okay. And then I am going to switch to the Discord because we're sharing screens, yo. And then I think we're good now. I'm seeing your screen. Yep, and everyone else is able to see your screen. Yeah, should be good. And so I'm gonna start screening for questions. It'll be easier for me if you write a question in the form of question and then the question, then question. I see some questions, but I'll just kind of like from here on out. Oh, Rake is here. He's hanging out. What's up,
Not
Rake?
everyone wants to play the social media
Rake, you're not
game.
allowed to be here. Can you please leave the room, please? But I think I could find some questions in here. I'm just going to see if I can find ones right
So I
here.
think that's a good point, though. There, reading these.
Yeah, because uh, it's hard to screen because I don't want people not to be able to talk to each other either. This makes it easier to screen them. I think Elliot had a question though, so I'm gonna start with Elliot. Any advice on how to increase stamina when it comes to drawing? I currently manage about 5 to 6 hours a day, but after that, I struggle to stay focused, and quality seriously drops. I think 5 to 6 is actually enough already, to be honest. Um, but if it's stamina in terms of like boredom, then that's just a thing you just gotta overcome. And I usually like put on podcasts or something like this. I'm not sure what you do whenever you're working, like what kind of stuff that you listen to, but that's what I do. Um, and in terms of like physical stamina, like maybe you're just feeling tired or fatigued, uh, you just gotta probably eat better, sleep better, drink more water. And then in terms of like I know people also have like hand issues from drawing. This is something that I can do like a whole video on. It's just mostly about like you're pushing too hard on your pen, Wacom pen. That's usually what causes that. And so what you should do is either increase the sensitivity on your Wacom devices or start to slowly reduce the pressure you're pushing down with your hand. If you're squeezing tightly for like long periods of time, it creates cramps and it creates like strain on those tendons and those muscles, and that's what that pain feels like, and that's where it's coming from. If your hand goes numb, that's carpal tunnel or something along those lines. So,
Oh,
yeah, you should you the only real remedy for that is either surgery, or if you can prevent it from happening, try to be at an ideal uh, body weight, because usually anything that will help clog the arteries will create lack of blood flow. And so if you have a like low cloggage in your veins, you'll most likely get rid of these problems. I used to have like that kind of carpal tunnel feeling in my wrists, but then I changed my diet entirely, and it went away almost instantly. Like took a couple weeks, it was gone. And so I think that's my advice. What's your advice in terms of like stamina, in terms of drawing?
oof. I'm not really sure if I can give good advice on this because that was one of those things that I really struggled with and had to see a doctor about because I would draw for, like I would be doing crazy stuff like 16-hour live streams on Twitch and
So you
just
don't have a stamina problem. You had the opposite. Too much.
yeah,
I
yeah,
got it. Yeah, I
and
hear
then
you.
my wrist was like, really messed up.
Yeah, I know. Like, especially if you're going through hard stuff, like it's really easy to just get focused. I remember I had like a really bad breakup, and I was like drawing all the time during that time. Because it's just
Mm,
so much easier to just like not pay attention to that and just focus on my art,
mhm.
which only made it worse for my ex, because she just got even crazier. That I was like, it felt like I just moved on,
Ooh,
so easily. But the reality was like, no, I just kind of like drowned myself into my work, which I think for me it was a healthy strategy, right?
yeah,
Because
it's
I
a
was,
coping mechanism, I think.
yeah, versus like I think maybe in your case it was more of like you were just going too hard. But
I always been like that since I was like young. I just like to draw a lot, so
that's good
it
though.
just my wrist is like it's just like screaming uncle all the time.
All right, cool. Um, quick question: do you think playing videos slash music in the background while studying distracts or detracts from the learning process? Now, my answer to this is if you're trying to learn, you should be focusing. And my advice usually is like you should take like an hour or two and just focus. You shouldn't actually be like listening to anything maybe music, and if you do listen to like focus type music, it's just like ambient sounds. You know what I mean? Like, like just kind of like just there's no rhythm to it. It's just kind of like a monotone white noise, brown noise type of thing. Because I think if you have like especially videos, like you're just gonna be paying attention to what's being said, and what you really should be paying attention to is like what you're trying to learn, like whether it's your anatomy or forms or whatever. I actually go to like Starbucks and I'll just like put on like noise canceling headphones and then just like draw. But if you are trying to, practice, for instance, something you already know how to draw, like let's say, in Micah's example, she like draws a lot of like beautiful women. So if she just wanted to get like I don't know like better at drawing them at a different pose, I don't think you would need to like study that as much because you kind of already have like a strong base, you know. So you would just be practicing it, and in that case, you don't really need to have non-distracting type audio around. You know what I mean? You can totally have like videos, music. It's like if you don't know how to shoot a three pointer, you should focus on like the mechanics of shooting a three pointer. But once you do, right? Once like I've showed you or somebody shows you, then you just practice throwing three pointers. And during that time, I think you can totally be distracted, or not distracted, but you can listen to the stuff that would normally be distracting because you're just trying to get that grind in. And then whenever you're doing stuff that you're clearly competent in, I don't think there's any contest there. You should definitely have something to keep your mind focused because usually it's just a marathon at that point, right? Like finishing client work for me is this. Because usually when I'm doing client work, it's always stuff that I am already capable of doing. It's just a matter of doing it based off of their, recommendations. And so I just do it, and it's nothing out of the normal. Like I just had a meeting this morning, and they want me to draw something that I just draw all the time, and they even explained like you draw this stuff all the time, this is what we want. And I was like, yeah man, let's do it. And they're like, they have a lot of confidence that I'm going to do well. I have a lot of confidence I'm going to do well because it's something that I've done a lot, right? So to me, like I'm already preparing, like getting audiobooks, podcasts, videos ready to listen to while I work on their stuff later this week. You know, so for me, obviously, it depends. But if you're trying to learn, yeah, absolutely, you should be focused. How about yourself? What do you think?
I would say, yeah. I mean, if you're specifically trying to learn something and it requires you to hear it or listen to it, then I would say yes. You need to uh, probably focus on that more. But like for me, a lot of what I do at this point is kind of just autopilot, and I will totally be listening to like Chris Hansen going after Onision or something on YouTube while I'm like painting. So it just actually helps me not to go crazy when I have sound
Uh-huh.
playing, because if it's dead silence, then I actually have a tendency to overthink, and like my brain will just start like if I don't like put something on. I have to have something on personally, but I think it's different for everyone. So
I think that's a great you know thing to keep in mind. Like whatever is going to make you work at your best, you should probably do. you know, like to kind of bounce off what you're just saying. Because I think the advice I was giving, I think is more generalized. But at the end of the day, some people listen to music, some people listen to audio, like podcast type stuff, and it's whatever makes you get the work done. So anyway, all right. So now, question: any advice on how to increase stamina when it? Oh, this person formally asked it. Thank you, Elliot. Alexander asks: is it really needed to study 3D things like Blender, SketchUp, Moto, and so on if you are 1 year, 1.5 year beginner? You want to answer this question first?
ah man, I don't know. I'm kind of biased. I've been using Blender for like 9 years. I love that software. It's great. I think it's awesome if you at least learn some basics. It could only help you because if you're trying to put together a composition or something, you can place objects in Blender and look at it from any angle you want. And the more skills you have in 3D software, the more like the further you can take your work. You can only go up from there, to be honest. And you can incorporate the 3D in your artworks. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, I remember one time you did like a comic, right?
Oh, if yeah, it's on my art station. There was a in like I made a 3D environment and I made it look like it was drawn.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
This right here?
Uh, I don't know. Where are you
Yeah,
sending
look
it?
at the share
So,
screen on Discord. You should be able to see it. My
okay,
screen.
let me hop in there on my phone. Or I'm scared to like open. Well, actually, no. Discord should be fine, right?
It's
Oh
called
wait,
Clip Studio Paint Tests.
yeah, that one. That's it.
Okay, cool. I think you even you shared it one time on Facebook.
Yeah, I showed my
Yeah,
process
you
with
showed it
it.
right here actually too. Yeah, look at that.
I actually planning to make some YouTube videos on how to do it, but I just haven't had the equipment around to do that. And yeah, but I think that learning 3D, you don't have to do it, but if you do, it's just another really awesome tool to have at your disposal.
Absolutely. Yeah, my perspective on stuff like that, and I think it's similar to what you just said. You know, don't think of it as like, oh, should I do it or not? Right? Think of it as what tools do you need to do the things you need to do, right? So,
Efficiently at that.
yeah, if you are like for instance, like people like ask me all the time about 3D too, and I'm like I didn't learn 3D because I should learn 3D. I learned 3D because it was going to make me a better character slash creature designer. I was always going to be a creature and character designer. This is kind of the
Hmm.
point I'm making, you know?
Yeah,
So it was not a matter of I should learn 3D just because. I learned 3D because I wanted to maximize my skills.
I
You
learned
know?
3D because I was a weeb and I wanted to make Vocaloid music videos. But hey,
Well,
at
that's my
least I can
point.
purpose.
Yeah, that's my point, and that's great. Like you had a goal. Like if you're just learning it for the sake of learning it, you're always gonna ultimately get bored of it, or something's gonna like deter you from keep going. But if you have like a goal, then you're gonna be more focused. You know what I mean? And you should stop thinking of it as like 3D versus 2D. You should just think of it as different tools, right? Because as you learn 3D, you'll start to be even better at your 2D because you'll have a more of a volumetric understanding of
Oh
things, right?
yeah,
So
sure.
it just all supplies one another, you know. But what I would say is that you should focus though on what it is that you want to be, not what you use, right? Because if you focus on what you use to define who you are, that's when you get really distracted by your tools, right? And your tools are
Mhm.
always gonna change. They're always gonna evolve. They're always gonna get better. You've used Blender for 9 years. You said
Mhm.
Blender has changed a
Oh
lot,
yeah.
and it's like one of those things where you didn't know that it was only going to get better as a tool. It could have easily just as easily fell off like my favorite tool, Silo. Like nobody uses Silo. Silo has like very few development on it, you know. Um,
Mm,
but I used it because I liked it. I didn't think about I better use the most premier softwares. I just used whatever I felt the most comfortable with. So
whatever works.
yeah, whatever works. All right, I'm gonna grab some more questions. Okay, here we go. So,
Somebody
uh,
said that they asked if they should not watch the video. I think it's because of Vampirella's costume. So I'm just gonna stay zoomed in on the face, even though I really shouldn't be working on her face. But I don't want to get her in trouble. I'm
oh,
sorry.
because of the content.
I mean,
Oh wait, you're cutting out your audio. What was that? Oh, you sound like you're like a mile away. I don't know what happened to your audio. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe you can jump in and out. I can't really hear you. It
You
sounds
want
like
me to?
you're going through a tunnel.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, it's getting a little bit better.
Oh, maybe the mic is picking up the other people.
Uh,
They're using the phone.
yeah, I heard you just for a second. I'm assuming you're saying that there's something in the background that's getting picked up. But it's okay. While you're sorting that out, I'll just keep going until I hear you clearly. Keep testing it. All right. So, question: do you feel more artists are focusing on Facebook over Instagram, and maybe distance? The third is Twitter. Um, Oh, here. Let me remove this too. So while you're figuring that out, just let me know when you're back in business. I'll just keep painting on
Yeah.
this guy. Oh wait, say something.
Wait, do I sound normal now?
You sound normal now.
Deadass? Okay. All right.
All right. Let me know when you're back to your painting. I'll throw
I
you
am
back
back
on
to my
there.
painting.
Okay. All right. There you go. So, um, yeah, social media. Again, I think the way you should think about social media is the same way that I answered the question about 3D. Like, you should just look at them as what's your purpose. So I used to use Facebook exclusively. I use now Instagram and Facebook and ArtStation. These three are pretty much my pillars. I've started to use DeviantArt again as well, and so and I'm planning probably starting this week or next. I'm planning to begin doing videos for uh, TikTok. I've been watching a lot of videos. I've been saving a lot of content that I really like, and a lot of the content that I like and the content that I think would be the most natural for me to make is like advice videos. And so I'm like, all right, I should probably do that. And so for me, just pick one and just go for it. All of them have their own audiences, and they have different metrics of numbers that you should be alerted to. For instance, Facebook, you may have less followers, but they're more active because most people are usually on their computers when they're checking Facebook. Instagram, people are usually on their phones. I mean, they only can be on their phone or like a tablet, right? But most likely their phone. TikTok, most likely on their phone. ArtStation, most likely on their computer. So keep this type of stuff in mind. Like, think about how you use these softwares. Are you doing like a PG?
There you go.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. But you can keep that on for now. But thank you for being modest. um, like I would most likely paint like a half naked lady too. So I don't even think it's a big deal. Um, I know Facebook is real weird about that stuff. So anyway, so that's my advice. Is just kind of like just it's more about consistency. Like just be consistent, whatever platform you're using. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, your audio is cutting in and out again.
Oh, is it?
Oh wait, no, you're good now.
Oops.
It's
I'm
like
so
it's off and on.
sorry.
Yeah, it came back as soon as you mother.
Mother.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. What about you? What's your favorite platform, or what do you think about social medias?
I've been kind of as toxic as it is. I've been having fun with Twitter lately.
Twitter, Twitter is definitely a dumpster fire. Every time I go there, I'm like, I feel. You know what? Like we had this talk once before, like purging your socials of
Mm.
like negative influences. I think that's what
Oh,
I need to do. I think I just need to go there and start unfollowing like a lot of people because I think they're just like perpetuating this toxic environment. I just need to
yeah,
unfollow
that
everybody and just follow better role models.
that gif of childish Gambino walking in on the fire with everybody with pizzas in his hand. That's Twitter basically.
Everything is fine. This is fine. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Um, all right. So we're gonna lightning round because I actually should be going pretty soon. I have a lot of stuff to do today, including the thing that we're doing tonight. So I need to kind of like make sure I get stuff done before the day is over.
Yeah,
Because I'm going to be pretty much out of commission. Usually I work at night when I have to do stuff,
yeah, same.
but it's a special occasion, so I want to go. Anyway, so we'll just kind of just lightning round through these. Let me see what's going on here. Okay, here we go. Uh, do wait, what the? Am I missing something? Am I skipping ahead? Question: do you feel artists are focusing? Okay, when building up a full range of value ranges, what do you think about immediately establishing lightest slash light or light slash dark versus starting with a mid range scheme and building up? I guess this person, Scoss Glenn 55, is just asking in general how we would go about building values. It all depends.
Mhm.
If I'm building a design that's mostly light, I will start with a dark background and then build up my lights. If I'm building a design that's light value, or sorry, dark value. Then I'll start with a lighter background and then build up my darks. It's all relative. It doesn't really matter to me. What I think for somebody at a beginner level, what they should focus on is just simply controlling their local values and controlling their lighting separately. An intermediate person should be practicing both of these at the same time, and an advanced person should just be perfecting this stuff. That's my quick lightning round answer. What about you?
I find that a lot of people who get started with values, oftentimes, I think they need to like work on their delineation and midtones because a lot of them will make high contrast things and it turns out really muddy.
That's great
Um,
advice.
yeah, because I had that problem when I first started doing that a lot, and oh man, if I like was to look at my old work, it was super muddy because I didn't know how to like make the shapes distinguishable from one another.
Yeah,
So
totally.
like learning how to control your harsh edges and then things that need to be softer. That takes a lot of practice. It's a lot.
Awesome. All right. Telly anime. We already answered your question earlier. How do you maintain the overall image when painting complex details? This is Bernhard. So you just gotta have a good image from the very beginning. And what I mean is that you should just be able to like from afar be able to tell your image is working great. And if it is, then you can zoom in a little bit more and then detail it and then zoom in a little bit more. Because if you are trying to maintain your image at the detail range, that means your image was never maintained in the beginning. You know what I mean? That means you didn't really have a sense of design from the start. You're hoping to kind of reel it in towards the end, when in reality you should be, just get better at detailing from afar, so that way you can see the overall image at all times. And then when you actually detail, it's really just a matter of just amplifying the quality of the image rather than like fixing it at that point, right? It's more like your image was out of focus and you're just bringing it into focus more and more.
That's actually something that I still struggle with is designing overall shapes before going crazy with detail.
So I've been like trying to force myself to do that. I pulled up this
It's
image
great.
as an example here,
Of
like
the
'cause
muddiness, the lack of it.
pretty. Hmm?
Wait, are you talking about detail or are you talking about the?
Well, this was actually pertaining to the previous question, but
Yeah, that's
like
what I
this
thought.
one is heavy on midtones, and then the parts
Yes.
where I want the clear, distinguishable like ranges, like you can see the crease between her lips or like her eyelids is where it gets darker because you want to emphasize those things. I mean, AJ's work actually features a lot of delineation, so just look at his work, like you already do probably.
Yeah, I'm definitely well known for value control, and it's because values are what makes images look like things, you know. And so I spend a lot of my time practicing and understanding values. But yeah, I think what Micah's saying right here is exactly right. When you balance your values, and I think when you're especially dealing with a lot of midtones, you could also get a lot more vibrance. So you can even see the colors in your image is really nice.
Hmm.
That's where most colors live, or in like the most vibrant, or most vibrant of colors usually live in the midtones, the higher and lower range of midtones. But I am a big fan of high contrast, and so I think a lot of times people make the mistake of putting high contrast in the way that you were explaining everywhere at all times. Where I'm
Yeah,
about high contrast where it matters and
yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
it's important.
I
And
know you've
you,
also talked about using black. I like using black. I don't
oh
care what
yeah,
anyone says.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
in art school they would tell you to prevent, or they'll prevent you from doing this because, and it's a good logic, because it's usually the beginners that will abuse it. And
Yeah, yeah.
so it's kind of like, it's more like protecting yourself from your own negligence,
Mhm,
right? But it doesn't tell you, they don't go further. I think, at least in my experience, they never explain further that that's what it is. That ultimately you can eventually bring it into your whole workflow and go like completely black and white on a whole image like a graphic novel, and it looks
mhm.
perfectly fine. Anyway, let's move on. Someone else asked about the detail question. I think Tea House Reloaded. I've answered that as well as I could. Um, what are your thoughts on aphantasia? Aphantasia. If you don't know what that is, I don't. It's a mental condition, not really an illness, which incapacitates that's what the word is, incapacitates you to visualize images in your head. Let me look this up. So if you have a hard time visualizing things in your head, uh, most people can readily conjure images inside their head, known as their mind's eye. But this year, scientists have described a condition in some which people are unable to see mental images. Um, yeah, okay, so I don't know if this is something like I'm trying to see if I could do that right now. Oh yeah, I can do that. I can see something in my mind's eye. I'm trying to like thinking of a banana and I see banana. Yeah, okay, I got it. So I don't have this thing, but I will say I don't think this way when I draw. So if that is something that you think is a contingency, like something that is required to be a great artist, uh, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's actually something that you should probably be aware of if this is something you have, and something that you should probably manage if it's something that makes it harder for you. But in reality, the only time I think I ever really used this is when I'm trying to study. But even then, I am just trying to teach myself muscle memory rather than actually like being able to, in my mind's eye, draw stuff. Because a lot of what I draw is actually just impulse. And the way I like to explain it is like walking. You know, when you're walking, you don't think about one step in front of the other, you just do it. And that's the same way that I am with shape design and painting and rendering and all that good stuff. It's all secondary. I don't know if you have this problem or you're aware of this. This is the first time I've ever heard of it.
I have never heard of this, but it kind of reminds me of when people come into my streams and they're struggling with drawing from imagination. But usually, those things, I tell people that they should probably work on trying to mitigate that by building their mental visual library. But if this is like a condition, I'm not really sure if I can give sound advice on that, especially since I know so little about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why I'm trying to imply that if this is something you're afraid is going to be a real detriment, I don't think so, you know? But I could be wrong. Maybe I'm using my mind's eye more than I am realizing. I don't think so. I never cognitively have something in my brain. Like the image that I just painted for you guys earlier, like this character right here, this is the first time I've seen him. You know what I mean? I did
Mhm.
not have him in my mind when I started. Even when I started drawing the first shapes, the thing that was on my mind was like, "Oh, AJ, don't start with the head." That was the first thing that I thought about. I remember thinking of that. So I started with the body. If you go back and watch this video later, you'll see that's kind of what I did. Like I started over. Um, but it had nothing to do with like a head that I saw. I just was like, "Oh, don't start with the head. Just start with the body this time." It was like more of like a proactively preventing myself from drawing the same thing again. And so I would say in my experience, I don't think it's a thing that you would need to worry about. But like I mentioned earlier, and like what Michael was saying too, if you are really worried about this, there's always ways to manage it. You know, there's always something that people that have these kind of rare diseases or these really like this strong disabilities, they still find ways to do the things that they love, and you just want to kind of be that person too, right? You want to be an inspiration to those of us that might not have these disadvantages, and to those that do. All right, real lightning round. I'm gonna go real quickly. When did these kind of streams? Oh, when you do these kinds of streams, how do you approach the paintings? Are they sort of stream of consciousness? Yes, they are. I just kind of explained that. Or do you already have a clear idea? I do not have a clear idea. Definitely a stream of consciousness. Consciousness. Um, William, hi. Studying. Hi, I am studying art A level, and I would like a career in the film and game industry as a concept artist. I want to study an art degree, but which one would you recommend? Um, I don't really worry about art career in terms of art degree. I would worry about like William. I think you should focus on just building a portfolio. I've talked about this many times in many different streams, but My quick answer to you is degrees don't get you the jobs, portfolios do. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Micah. Is go for it.
I'm very, uh, well, in the past, I have been very vocal about being anti-art school. I realize, though, that the schools available to people over here are different than the schools I was exposed to. So I realized, people have access to better education here. But other than that, being self-taught, I don't really think that you have to wait for school to really get started if this is the career path you really, really want to pursue. If you truly want to pursue it, you're gonna, you know, I think you should just get started.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you wish you knew when you were just starting out in art? My answer to these types of questions is I wouldn't really tell myself anything. Um, if I had to, though, to answer your question, it'd probably just be like really focus on shapes. But even then, like that's kind of the point. Me not knowing and going through the struggles and the journey of becoming the artist I am today, you know what I mean? Like that's all relevant to who I am. And so for me to kind of go back and try to shortcut that in some way, I don't know if that would be valuable to me. I think it would actually be. It's just as valuable to just have gone through those issues. What about yourself?
Yeah. Um, I probably would have like spent more time trying to think about anatomy when I was younger. If I could like go and like shake myself and scream and slap myself in the face. But, it is what it is.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna put no more questions from here on out. Okay. Um, I have 4 years of professional design experience doing graphic design, brand design, illustration, and storyboard. Is that experience relevant to concept art? It isn't, other than the fact that it will help you become a better concept artist. But it doesn't necessarily mean, like, no one's going to look at all that and think, this is great to give this person a job doing that. Um, like, if you are supposed to do character concept art design, of like I don't know characters that are heavily sponsored by like some sort of like in-game, commercial industries, then maybe that would help, right? Because it'll help you design their costuming better. But outside of that, like unless there's a very specific hybrid job, um, if you are trying to be, let's say, a character designer for a Marvel movie, none of that stuff will really be relevant, right? It just wouldn't. You just need to be a good character designer and costume designer. And again, those custom design elements that might require graphic design and shape and stuff, that kind of stuff will help you design better stuff like that. But you won't get a free pass, is what I'm getting at. It's actually a problem that I see where a lot of artists will take other art disciplines and kind of retroactively put them onto another art career, and it gives them this false sense of like accomplishment that does not exist yet. And the best way I explain this is like you're on a soccer field, you have a goalie and you have a forward, and they're both playing the same game. They're both playing on the same team, but can you switch their roles? Could you switch the forward to be now be the goalie? Could you make the goalie now be the forward? And the answer is most likely no, right? And even though they're playing the same game, even though they're on the same team, those are two different disciplines, right? And it's a really good way of thinking about it, because if you just assume, then when you start to actually try to build your character design or environment design, whatever concept art portfolio, and it's starting to really feel like hard and it's not coming to you easily, it could be a distraction. You might have this false sense that it should be easy. No, it shouldn't. It should actually be very challenging. If you're trying to get like a lower tier job, I think those types of jobs, those types of extra skills you have, will be helpful for sure. But if you want to work for the big companies, usually that kind of stuff isn't as helpful. All right, moving on. Let's just keep going. Question: what artists are y'all really into right now? You want to answer that?
Hmm?
Oh, I skipped one too. I see your question, toddler. I'll come back to that. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. Muka? I like Muka.
Muka is one of the best.
Mm, Uh, I always pronounce his name wrong. Lendecker?
Yeah, Linedecker.
Lendecker? Yeah, that guy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like his
Line
stuff too.
yeah, Linedecker's great. I think there's only one more question too. Um, I like all sorts of artists of all sorts of breeds. You know, it's always disingenuous, I think, to kind of just name one. It's a misleading. You know, if I just name one artist and say that's my favorite artist, or the artist that I'm into. But if you always want to know the kind of artists that I'm into, you can just always go to my Pinterest and you can go to my ArtStation collections or my likes page. Just go there and you'll see the kind of stuff I'm liking recently. You know,
So a
I'm
lot of the
pretty.
stuff you're influenced by is like stuff that's not just artists, though, right?
Yeah, my Pinterest is like not just art exactly. It's all sorts of stuff too. You know,
Yeah.
it's not just artists. I actually putting together a video about mental like your mental diet, your artistic diet,
Hmm.
right? And talking about like how the kind of stuff you consume reflects the kind of stuff that you create. So if
Hmm.
yeah, so if you're constantly consuming what I would call these days complaint culture, then you're gonna have a mentality of complaining, right? But if you consume what I like to think is like insightful, educational type stuff, then you're gonna start building that kind of stuff. And the same is true with art. Like if you're consuming nothing but like tech head mech art, right? You're gonna be producing that kind of art. But if you consume all sorts of art, then you're gonna have an opportunity to design all sorts of unique and interesting art, right?
Yeah, I've been into like exploitation posters and stuff like that. Like
Tight.
really, that's my stuff. I like that kind of stuff personally.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And earlier, someone asked about Jeff Simpson if I liked that person's art. Yes, of course. Jeff Simpson's a great artist. I know him online. We talk frequently, or not frequently. We talk often. I'm trying to not skip questions here. I started drawing a month ago, roughly, and even though some people like what I do, I hardly like the end result most of the time. How can I deal with being too hard on myself? Yeah, so the reality is you just shouldn't. You should look at it in a different lens. Like don't think of it as, oh man, like I'm so bad. Look at it as you're still training. Like if you were to go and train at juggling for the first time, you're gonna drop all the stuff that you're juggling, right? But as time goes on, you'll be able to juggle more and more and more and more effectively until eventually you're on the road as a circus clown juggling on a unicycle. You know, you know what I mean? Like think of it in the scope of a skill being trained rather than, oh, why am I not good after only a month of training? Or oh, I'm so far from being good. Like stop thinking of that kind of stuff. It's actually a distraction and it's irrelevant. It's always like that for everybody. Nobody just starts out training for like a day or two and gets really, really good. I've been at this for almost 12 years and my skill has come from those years of training. You know what I mean? Micah just even mentioned earlier she's drawing since she was a little kid, and she actually had to like stop drawing so much. So clearly, her skill comes from that years of experience as well. You know what I mean? So it's not normal to just all of a sudden be really good. That's actually part of that's part of the deal. So don't be so hard on yourself. It's just it's a wrong frame of mind. That's a distraction. All right, moving on. Well, actually, do you have any thoughts on that?
Hmm?
Being hard on
Oh,
yourself?
honestly, I just endorse what you said.
Okay. I got endorsed. Okay. Do you know of any painting groups online where people are doing paint chats? Would you like to answer that one? Or should I
Uh,
start my own? Said this person. Uncommon sense. It
I
looks
don't
like people are talking to this person too, so it's cool.
I don't know. I honestly don't. You know, sometimes people in my Discord do them, but I'm too busy to participate in 90% of the time, so I don't really know what goes on there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still building something for myself on my Patreon. But in terms of outside of that, like there's a lot of Facebook groups. And yes, starting your own is a great one. But you can always join Discords. That's always a good strategy too. What are your thoughts? Oh, we've already answered that one. I think that's it actually. I don't see any other questions coming in here and hanging out. I think like having strong bond with the community is really good and really important. So that's why I'm happy to have people like Micah in here. Like she's been someone I've known for a while, and I'm really happy that you're doing better and you're moving some. Sorry, I'm like searching something right now. You're making some moves. I really appreciate that. I think you're a really great artist. Yeah. If you guys don't follow her already, you guys should go give her a follow. Let me see if I can find the link again. All right, let me grab this.
My Instagram is just this Sozo that makes it. I need to update my art station, to be honest.
Yes, yes, you should. But if you just search this same name, it should be able to you should be able to find her on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm more active there.
Yeah, so go there, check it out. And then for next week, I'm gonna get my buddy Adon. I'll share his work too, so you guys can check it out. Like I said, he's mostly like mech stuff and more mechanical design. He's a really young guy too. When I met him, I think he was still under. I think he was like 20. I think he was even younger than that, if I remember correctly. And I was like, you're already so crazy good. But yeah, I want him to be on here too. So again, to spread the knowledge of these people that I don't think people know about, but are really excellent artists. And have great conversations. I appreciate it. We had a really good turnout. We had over like 200 people show up, so that's really great. I'm glad to see. And if you guys have any questions you guys want me to answer in the future, just got to show up in the streams. Like I said, some streams will be longer than others. Sometimes it'll just be me, and I'll just answer questions, whatever. But with that being said, Micah, thank you again
Thanks for
showing
having
up.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys don't already follow me on my Instagram, you guys can go to Robotpencil. If you don't already subscribe to this channel, please subscribe. Like the video, please, too, if you enjoyed it. And then also, I got my Patreon. You should be able to find all the links, I think, in the video as well, in the video description. But you can also go just look Robotpencil on Patreon, and you should find me there. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody for showing up. Great questions. And everyone, have a good one. See you later.
Bye bye.